The Full Circle Podcast. Compelling interviews and incredible tales from Colorado's western slope, from the mountains to the desert. Christi Reece and her team hear from the movers, shakers, and characters of the Grand Valley and surrounding mountain towns that make the western slope the place we all love. You'll learn, you'll laugh, you'll love with The Full Circle. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Full Circle Podcast. I'm here today with our marketing manager, Carrie Matthews, also known as Mattie, and with some very special guests from the Storm Cellar Vineyard Winery. This is Steve Steese and Jayme Henderson, and we are excited to learn all about your wines and your property today and your lives. We want to hear everything, right? So just share it all.
Share it all.
I have not had the pleasure of attending your facility yet, but Mattie has, and so she's here today to chime in on all the wonderful things that you do. And we're just excited to learn more about the wine and everything and all over the Western Slope. We have such pride in our wines here in the Grand Valley, and we feel like you're a part of that. You know, Western Slope, we're all one.
All together.
Yeah, and it's really important. So, Mattie, why don't you start off with a couple of questions for Steve and Jayme?
Well, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And yes, I've been kind of stalking them this past summer. We went a couple times to the
We became
tasting.
good friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were there like all day. And then at the end of the day, Jim was like, was that weird that we were there like
Not
6
at all.
hours?
No.
I was like, I don't think we're the only people that take that long. So anyways, but it's awesome. And so after being there a couple times, I definitely wanted to talk to you guys and talk more in depth because they're so busy. Like these guys are like the show, like they're doing everything in their tasting rooms. So
yeah, I read about you. You have one employee. Is that still true?
One this year that operated the tasting room on Wednesdays and Thursdays, Keelan Smith, and she did an amazing job. And having her there those 2 days out of the 5 that we were open allowed us to be in the vineyard because we do all of the vineyard work together. It allowed us to do any, deliveries, which we do across the state out of our pickup truck. So it was big help to have her there those 2 days.
Mm-hmm. But otherwise you all do everything, all the jobs.
Everything.
Yeah.
We do.
Amazing.
It's funny, we were just talking with one of the growers that we purchase grapes from, and we were, asking for tips on efficiency and planting and grape varieties. And, he was talking about how he has all of these crews and such, and we are the crews. So we have about, for example, we have about 4,000 vines that we're putting into the ground this next spring. And, because it's just the two of us right now, in a perfect world, it'd be great to have more, but you're always looking to make things some more simpler and more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It's the goal.
It sounds awfully romantic. Is it that romantic? Like you guys are working together, you're picking grapes together.
It's pretty romantic.
Yeah. It's a vineyard. I think a lot of people have that feeling like, oh gosh, it just sounds like wonderful. It's a lot of hard work.
It's a lot of hard work. You can weigh in on that, Steve.
Yeah, people who think they want a vineyard, they don't really want a vineyard. They want a chateau or they want a tasting room. They want to pay everybody to do all the work, and they just want to lord over their property and observe.
Drink wine and eat good food while looking at the beautiful view and the vines.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't want that? Yeah.
And there are stories like that where, you have these people who have, already established a career and they can just launch this vineyard and winery project. But, kind of play on what you just said, we thought about waiting maybe even 20 years to do what we're doing, but we realized that we wouldn't be able to be as hands-on. So we're capitalizing on, the youth that we have, the energy that we have, so that we can really be hands-on in what we do. We love being, right there in the mix of things.
well, it's all, go ahead.
I mean, there certainly will be some point in the future where we have employees, but how do you train somebody what to do if you've never done it, if it's a new industry for you? So we have to figure everything out ourselves before we can figure out which tasks are the ones that we're willing to let go, which ones are the ones that we refuse to let go, those kinds of things. Yeah.
Well said.
Well, it's a good question to go to the beginning. We know that you guys had a life in the restaurant industry in Denver and other areas and sommeliers and all that, really in depth. Talk about the transition to how did you, obviously you've kind of told the story a million times. This is, we decided to buy this vineyard, but really talk about that transition and how you took that leap. That's a huge leap, what you guys did.
Yeah.
I like talking about that.
I know. I was just going to say the same thing, and I'll let you take the lead. But, it's a story that we never get tired of telling. It's our roots. We're still attached to that part of our lives. We're not letting go of our culinary hospitality roots. Yeah, go ahead. You can weigh in.
People ask what it's like to be a sommelier, and they just like owning a winery, they think it's this magical thing where you're just tasting wine all the time. But
like people think that all we do is look at great houses. Some people, like all day, beautiful houses. That's all we see.
Yeah, but even us, we say, even though we're certified sommeliers, we spend a lot of time of our lives with that as our professional career. Now, when we talk about ourselves, we say former sommeliers, because in our mind's eye, a sommelier is a specific thing. A lot of people think, it's this certification you get. I have a piece of paper. I'm a sommelier. Really, it's a service position. If you're not in a restaurant, are you really a sommelier? Maybe you've got the certification, but that's really what the job is the curator of a restaurant wine list. So which is why we say former sommeliers now. But, when you're running a restaurant like that, you don't ever get time off. We were running the busiest restaurant in Colorado for many years.
Is that Shanahan's?
Shanahan's. Mm-hmm. But what people outside of the industry don't see is when you get to a place like Napa Valley and you tell them you're the wine director of the busiest steakhouse in Colorado, you literally cannot imagine the red carpet that gets rolled out. It is like truly like jaw-dropping.
Oh, Colorado.
Unbelievable. Ooh, yeah. So for years, we'd get time off, time away, and we'd say, I really miss the beach, but wine country's free. So for a decade, every time we had time off, we'd spend it in wine country. And just like everybody, when you first get to wine country, it's magical and it's shrouded in mystery. And then after years of seeing it and studying it, you start to see the processes behind it. And then after more years of visiting, one of our catchphrases, we'd walk out of a winery, we'd leave a vineyard, and we'd look at each other and be like, we could totally do this. Or if that guy can do it, we can totally do this. Yeah. And just like Jayme said, we didn't want to retire and pay somebody else to do the work. We wanted to do it ourselves. It felt like the right time in a lot of levels.
So I thought you were kind of kidding when you said they rolled out the red carpet for you, but they did.
Oh, they do.
Oh, they do. And they really treat you right.
Yes. When you are running a list of 750 plus bottles and you have this coveted by the glass section, you have like between 10 and 15, say, red wines on a list. Someone out there in California, for example, is vying for that. We would do cases and cases and cases a week. And so they do roll out the red carpet. I kind of chuckled inside a moment ago because when we totally crossed over and became winemakers in Colorado, vineyard growers or grape growers here in Colorado, going back into the restaurant scene from Colorado wine standpoint, there's a big hurdle. It'd be easy if we were from California. Everyone thinks quality wine, California, and they open the door for you. And even in our home state, after we released our first wines, even people that we knew, they're, a little apprehensive. Like, let's see what you've got. Okay, you have to prove your quality. Totally different scenario, like a 180.
Wow. So, and back to Mattie's point of like, how did you make that transition? Did you look at each other and say, now's the time? I mean, we just got to do it.
Yeah.
The right property presented itself though.
The right property presented itself. That was the real turning point, was finding the right place. It had been just sort of this mysterious dream until we find the right place. But pretty much the drive back to Denver from the very first time we saw that property, we spent the 4 hours back to Denver writing a business plan and pretty much haven't turned around since then.
We were thoroughly convinced after looking at this particular property that we knew we were the ones that should have it and that no one else would be able to fulfill the dream that we had. And I mean, that might sound kind of gutsy and crazy because we weren't even farming. We were growing, maybe 45 tomato plants in our city plot. And we were just like, well, if we can do this on a small scale, we can do this on a larger scale. And I think that having that kind of that crazy, I call it crazy faith, it's just like, I think we can do it. If you don't have that, and if you knew all of the challenges that we'd be presented, I don't know if we would have taken that jump.
Yeah. What did you, with the property that you bought, what did you inherit, if you will? Like what was there? What did you have to invest in?
Not a winery. It was not a winery at all. It still is a vineyard. So it was planted with white wine grapes, some of which could be made into rosé, and it needed a lot of repair. It had a lot of great roots. Some of the wines that came out of that particular property were award-winning. But we hadn't even been able to taste what was actually made, like the wine that was made from those grapes on the property, because they were always blended with Grand Valley grapes. So there was a big leap, but we saw great potential. As far as the inherited question, we inherited a lot of farm equipment that we did not necessarily know how to use, a lot of crowdsourcing, a lot of tapping into local resources, local farmers, local winemakers, YouTube videos, a lot of groundwork. That was where that was the least known topic, was the farming aspect. And you couldn't even conceptualize what an acre even meant until you'd walked it, until you'd, taken the tractor on it. So it was, we had to do a lot of equipment purchasing to bring it to a winery. So,
and you're planting more vines, you said.
Yes.
This year. So was there a portion of the land that was fallow or lacking, or are you replanting? Did you have to tear things out?
A little bit of both.
A big, in-depth, convoluted subject.
You could fill up the rest of the 45 minutes.
Like, how long do we have here?
That's a book.
It was a vineyard. It had been neglected, a lot of it, for many years. So we have been able to salvage some of the vines that were there. It's a terrible pest exists in that vineyard that we found a couple months after purchasing the property. Of course, Colorado thought it was immune to this pest because of its extreme climates here, but unfortunately it's not just in our vineyard, but it's running rampant through the Grand Valley area right now too, and it's going to be the bane of the Colorado wine industry for the next 10 years. And the only way to deal with it, people are always shocked when they say there's a bug in your vineyard you can't get rid of. Have you tried this? Have you sprayed this? I'm like, if you can solve this problem, you are set for life.
You're a billionaire.
It is the $1 billion question that affects the entire world of wine. Every vineyard in the entire world has to come to terms with this pest, and the only way to get around it is to replant with rootstock that's immune to that pest. It's really the only way to deal with it. Otherwise, you're fighting a battle of maybe you can buy yourself a couple years if you pour some poison onto the vineyard to buy a little time, but who wants to do that? Just replant and get on with it. Yeah.
And then you lost a lot to the freeze.
We did. So we had kind of conceptualized when we first purchased the property, there were maybe 18 producing acres of vines. And we were able to use most of them. The first year that we were there, we sold them to different, Colorado wineries around the state. And then in 2018, we made our first round of wine. And we knew that we had phylloxera, the pest that Steve was mentioning, in our vineyard. And so slowly our estate vineyard production has decreased. And so like right now, even before the frost event that you were mentioning back in late October of 2020, we were projecting that we would have maybe 10 to 12 producing acres on our property. Those 10 to 12 producing acres, they were killed back by that frost. However, they're older vines and their root system was fully established. So this year, in 2021, we were able to train from the roots several new shoots, and those will be next year's trunks, and we'll be able to obtain fruit in a perfect world from them for 2022 harvest. But those are also on a death march with phylloxera. So we're enjoying what we have right now. But to answer your question about replanting, we have already started replanting. We have about 3 acres of vines already planted. And the thing about grapevines that you have to consider is just because you put them in the ground from seeds, say like a tomato, you can get a crop, a few months later, 90 days. You have to really wait about 3 to 4 years to obtain a harvest. You can maybe get a couple of clusters those first 2 years, but really, especially in Colorado with its volatile climate, you want to make sure that you concentrate on root stability, a great trunk system for the cold possibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how does your sommelier past and your food experience affect how you want to make wine? How does that make you better wine growers?
I light up with that question. We're home cooks. The conversation when you are at a table with a guest, even if they're buying a $30 bottle of wine, a $7,000 bottle of wine, it's about a story. It's about that connection. Who's in the kitchen? What ingredients are they using? Were those ingredients, say, grown in Colorado? Was the wine, made here in Colorado? That moment is so exciting. And as far as affecting our winemaking styles, being able to taste through all of the wines that we did over the years, hundreds of wines, it builds a library, like a tasting library, a palette that you can kind of go back to reference. And it's allowed us to put our wines, our personal wines that we've made, in a worldly context. And so being able to talk to people that come in the tasting room and you're able to say, hey, have you had this Chablis? Have you had this, really crisp, dry, lively expression of Chardonnay? Well, it's kind of like our Chardonnay here. And you're able to really kind of meet people where they are on their wine journey and be able to communicate with them in a non-threatening way, expand it as far as they'd like. That's my take on it.
I think another angle on that too, which everything you said is totally right, but also think about it, whenever you start a business, you kind of have to make the decision, am I going to find a guest, find out what that guest wants, and try and create a product for that guest? Or am I going to do what I want and then find a guest who likes what I want? And that's a very dividing line. And we knew right away that, once you go down the dark side, once you start making the wine with only the guest in mind, it's really hard to come back for that. People get used to that style. So we're like, we're going to do what we want to do as long as we can do it, and hope and try to find other people that have similar palates, similar ideas to what we're trying to do. And, all those years of tasting wine, we came in with very specific ideas about what it was we wanted to do. We were floundering around in a lot of ways. Farming and those kinds of things were scary. But when it came to what sort of style of wine we wanted to make, we had very clear ideas as far as that. Mm-hmm.
And did that have to do as much as the kind of grapes you can grow there? Or...
Yes. Even looking at that property, it was planted with varieties that we love. We love high acid, aromatic expressions of wine, specifically white wine. So we are a white wine and rosé house planted in that vineyard. So our first vintage, we did 5 different grapes. We did Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Gris, Chardonnay, and then Riesling. And I'm missing one. This is just 4. There we go. I want it to be 5.
There was a little Pinot Noir.
Yeah, there we go. So a Pinot Noir. And so what we did, we worked with what the vineyard was already planted with. And that vineyard was planted, in our opinion, perfectly with grapes suitable to that climate. It's cold climate, so you really get that acid, expression. We'll crack a bottle of our estate Chardonnay in a minute.
Oh, darn.
I know. We've kept it nice and cold. Yeah, so it was great. That was one of the other moments where we're just like, okay, these are the grapes that we love, we want to make wine out of, and it was just a telltale sign that was just what we wanted to, the vineyard we wanted to purchase.
Do you think that's the difference for you guys? One of the questions I have is, why is your wine so damn good? And do you think it is because of your background in sommelier versus other winemakers don't have that kind of what do you think is the difference? At least We've
certainly talked through that many times.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. That is our goal is to make quality expressions of grapes. We work with grapes this year from out of state, where we've worked with grapes from parts of Colorado, down in Cortez, a lot of Grand Valley grapes. So it's not just grapes from our vineyard site that we work with. Honestly, that I don't know. I'll just say our philosophy is to really just let the grapes shine. First of all, we love working with high quality grapes. That's our goal. We even invested in, a grape press that gently presses the grapes so that you're not extracting bitterness. Bitterness can happen at our high elevation because of sunburn, natural defense mechanism from grapes to kind of thicken the skin. And so we didn't also want to have our wines, hidden or kind of clouded over by, say, a lot of heavy oak influence. We really wanted to make great expressions of, say, Riesling, Chardonnay.
Yeah, last vintage, the 2020 vintage, we made, I think like 1,350 cases. And across that entire production, there was not one touch of oak on 1,350 cases.
Not that we don't like it. We've definitely used a touch of oak, like with our Roussan, a little bit of Chardonnay, but just really clean expressions. And we religiously, I think my button keeps, anyway, that's side note. I'm like, I'm going to just hide it. Where was I? Sorry.
We religiously.
Clean. Yes, religiously. Thank you. Yeah. So, as far as like winemaking styles, we taste our wines all the time throughout the fermentation process. It's not one of those things where you just like juice the, grapes, put it in the tank and wait for it to ferment. We do temperature controlled fermentations. We're tasting them daily to make sure that, that the fermentations are healthy.
And then there's the other little things that you don't think about, a word on labeling, to put the word Cabernet, Chardonnay, whatever on a bottle of wine in the United States, it only has to be 75% of that grape. The other 25% is winery's choice, and it could be 1% of 25 different wines. And literally in the restaurants, people would come in all the time and they'd be like, oh, I'm really into blends. I like blends. And we're like, they're all blends. It's the one thing that people don't think. People think if they see the word Cabernet Sauvignon on the label, oh, it's 100% Cabernet. Those days are rare when you get, there are the grapes. Pinot Noir, Riesling, almost never blended. Certainly there's some California Pinot Noirs that you feel pretty confident. There's some Syrah or something in there. Pinot Noir doesn't do that. But I think that's a big part of what we do too. People, when we first started, you feel some part of you thinks, oh, we should do 100% of these grape varieties, purist kind of mentality. But then you look at some of the most famous wine growing regions in the world, Bordeaux, the Rhone Valley, those regions are built on blends. Southern Rhone, there's 13 different grapes that can be in a Chateauneuf to pop. Bordeaux, the most famous wine growing region in the world, allows multiple different grapes blended in whatever percentage you see fit. And in a new wine growing region, why should we not try that? We've worked with grapes like Viognier, grapes like Gewürztraminer, grapes like Roussan. When you grow those grapes here in a climate like Colorado with this much heat, by the time you get them as ripe as you want, and by the time you get the phenolic flavors that you want, you've lost a lot of the natural acidity in those grapes. Well, we also grow a lot of Riesling. Well, Riesling has acidity for days. So you blend in 5% of Riesling and all of a sudden your wine is balanced again. Yeah. Those kinds of things. We love our seasoning packet of a winery. You look at the winery, what do we have in all these tanks? How is this going to work? Oh, this wine's going to be perfect as it is. This wine needs something. What do we have here in the winery that is that something that wine needs? So that's what our winter consists of. Yes.
It's blending season. I like to, both of us have, cooking and cocktail making in our repertoire as far as jobs go. And building a cocktail is all about finding that balance. You've got texture, you've got sweetness, acid, even when it comes down to the color and the presentation. And so making a great quality wine, if you get these rules and limits of like, it has to be 100% of this because it's this purest thing. Say you have a vintage, a year where it's really cold and the grapes don't get as ripe as we would like them to in our area. Say we have something in Grand Valley that we're able to source that has a lot of ripeness and it goes back to that blending. And you could be really intimidated when you see a big tank, with 500 liters of this wine. And you're just like, oh my gosh, it's not tasting as perfectly as we'd like it to. That's where the fun comes on. That's what we do in January and December. We're already starting to do our blending trials. And for us, back to what you were mentioning about, do we use the skills that we developed, working in the restaurant industry? Tasting well-balanced wines over all of those years gives us a model as to what kind of wines that we'd like to make.
And our winemaking style has sort of shifted. Our first year, we sat down and we're like, we're going to focus on aromatics. It's going to be our thing. We're going to focus on the aromatics. And we literally about lost our minds that year. The fermentation and aging process it's not a straight line. It doesn't start here and end here. There's days you go into the winery and you're like, what's that smell? What's going on in here? It rides a wave. And so the second year we decided right away, let's focus on texture. Let's focus on balance. If you do everything right, the aromatics are going to work themselves out. But focus on a well-balanced wine. And that's what, that's the same debate with the whole purist thing. Do we keep it is this pure unadulterated thing, or do we try and make the best wine that we can make? And every wine, we debate that. And it's not a set formula. There's no rules. There are certainly wines, we will never adulterate our estate Riesling. We won't touch that with anything. We are happy to be that purist, but then we work with other grapes, and it's fun to experiment in the blends too.
Yeah, and you're tasting and you're thinking, okay, that's way better than I thought it was going to be. We got to go with this.
Yeah.
It truly, granted, there's a great and well-established wine culture here in Colorado. But when you look at it opposed to someplace like California, it's the Wild West here. You can get away with anything. Nobody's moving into Napa Valley and planting an experimental acre of Gewürztraminer in the middle of Napa Valley. Like, those days are ancient history. If you're buying property in Napa Valley, you're planting Cabernet and you're pouring all your money into it. It's your only chance to make it work there. But once you get out of there and the land prices go down and there's a chance to try something new, it's exciting. That experimentation is so exciting.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like, so the bottom line is quality, making wines that you guys want to drink, first and foremost, and then hoping others will follow, which obviously they have. Spent many years in the beer industry, and the brewery I worked at was founded in '86, so one of the older American craft breweries. And it was always, that founder was very frustrated with how a lot of craft breweries would go to market with stuff that wasn't high quality, wasn't tested. They'd basically be testing on their customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't get the sense that's how you guys do. Yeah.
All of those industries, how many whatever new spirits companies, the first thing they do is some crazy seltzer or some triple fermented nonsense packaged in a can. You're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Just make something good first. Yeah.
Well, Carrie, I was going to say, we're in the craft brewing industry. That is one thing that you have to, I guess listeners, people, it's good for them to know, is that breweries have this unlimited supply of base product to make beers all throughout the season. They can just order this. Okay, let's get wheat. With winemaking, it's a little more risky. You have one chance to pick those grapes. And if you don't pick them at the right time, and you're not one to add sugar or acid or whatever, you have to wait another year. So it's definitely a little bit more of a risky venture. I'd say I might make some brewers mad, but they can kind of change it up and do small batches and such throughout the year and keep things coming.
They can also refine their process a lot because they get 50 different batches over the course of the year, and we get one chance, and then we spend the entire year talking about what we're going to do the next year. And then you try and get all your ducks in a row and capitalize on your one chance and then talk about it all year. And so it's stressful.
One of our neighbors is like, okay, like midsummer, when are you going to get some new wines? I'm like, this is it right now. This is 2020.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
We only have a limited supply.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know you guys talked when I was there this summer, you talked about doing some expansion, doing a new tasting room. Is that right? On the other end of the property. So kind of talk about that, like where you are now and where you see things going in the next few years.
Expansion on every level. We upped production.
And we should also drink. I mean, why are we just sitting here?
Thanks for having us here. Yeah.
This is the Chardonnay.
This is Chardonnay. So this is all, we'll get back to that question, but this is all estate grown fruit. Made in a Chablis style, like I mentioned earlier. So really we wanted to capture that true essence of Chardonnay grown at 6,000 feet.
What does in a Chablis style mean?
In a Chablis style. So Chablis is a region in France that is characterized by not a heavy oak influence. That particular, region within France. So Chablis is a region. And unlike, American wine labeling, Chablis is on the label and it's going to be Chardonnay. So it's kind of like if we were to say Palisade. If we knew Palisade was just it was just Riesling, you could say, I'm going to have a Palisade tonight. You're having a Chablis and it's going to be this, typically really crisp, really refreshing, bright type of Chardonnay. And so for us, that's one of our favorite styles of Chardonnay. So we didn't do any oak treatment on this. And, for example, these are grapes grown at 6,000 feet above sea level. The vines are about 30 years old. They are well established. And we really wanted to have those nuances of that bright apple, that pear, lemon zest. And, they're food-friendly wines. When you say food-friendly, what is that? It's kind of like a wine that makes your mouth water, encourages you to take a bite. And you kind of want to, maybe have a little cheese here, some bread. It would just be great. This was amazing. Like we say, like a creamy lobster dish. Sounds really great right now.
Did you bring any creamy lobster?
That's the second bag.
Yeah. Should have thought of that. That's really delicious. I love it.
Thank you. This just got a gold medal in San Francisco earlier this year.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
Which is great when you hit with Chardonnay in California, because that's Chardonnay ground zero, basically. So it feels like a win when you come onto their turf and win with Chardonnay.
So what are the advantages, and the challenges that you face at the elevation and the region that you're growing in as opposed to somebody that's in Napa?
Oh
sure.
My.
Pluses and minuses. People think when you look at a place like this, they look at a fringe climate and all they see is the negatives. They say, oh, it's frost. That must be a terrible, scary place to grow grapes. Granted, the frost is our biggest adversary. Spring and fall frosts are our biggest adversary. But we're in the high desert. We get 12 inches of rain a year. If you look at a place, Napa Valley is such an easy target. I always come back to Napa Valley. People are like, oh, I had this organic wine from Napa Valley. I'm like, one moment here. Let me just tell you, because in Napa Valley, it's not just grapes that want to grow there. Everything wants to live there. Every animal, every bug, every mold, every mildew, every pest can thrive in that environment. And so you are constantly battling all of those things. There are plenty of organic vineyards that are driving their tractor through every single week in a place like Napa Valley, spraying organic certified chemicals all over their vineyard all the time to manage those things. We have almost none of those biological threats. It's the desert and it's super windy. As soon as it rains, the wind rips through and dries everything out. We have almost no mold or bug or mildew issues, a tiny bit of bird pressure. We're up on the mesa, so we don't even really get animals because they're all down in the valley floor. So in a lot of ways, it is growing in the desert. People have found over many years that if you can get water to the desert, it's an amazing place to grow grapes. Spain, Eastern Washington, those kinds of places, because the biological threats are minimal. It's the water that's the issue.
But the threat of, late spring, early fall frosts is incredibly high. And we've been affected by both of those. We have measures that we can take. We have 2 wind machines on the property that can bring, the temperature at the ground right there at that tender, graft line. If you have grafted vines, it can bring the temperature up by 5 degrees and save you from losing, buds or, trunk loss.
Yeah, we had PBS filming at our property a year and a half ago, and they were doing a special on how climate change is affecting grape growing regions. A lot of even Bordeaux, like I was just talking about, the most regulated wine region in the world is now allowing new grapes into Bordeaux.
It's unheard of.
Unheard
of.
Yeah. That is in response to climate change. People are saying that by 2050, they won't be growing Cabernet in Napa Valley. They won't be growing Cabernet in Bordeaux. They'll be growing Tempranillo or Sangiovese grapes that can stand desert climate heat. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? You either have to go up in latitude or you have to go up in elevation, which is why a lot of people think the Rocky Mountain region is a real potential up-and-coming region for the country, because it doesn't matter how hot it gets. People think, oh, it's Colorado, it's a cold climate grape-growing region. That's not true at all. We get plenty of 90 and 100-degree days, but at 6,000 feet, even if it gets to 100 degrees a day, it's 60 degrees at night. That shift is called the diurnal swing, the difference between the hottest point of the day and the coldest point of the night. And that's how you get finesse in a wine. You grow wine in a place like Lodi, California, and it's 90 degrees in the day and it's 88 degrees at night. And your grape is just accumulating sugar. That's all this did. It's getting riper and riper and riper, but it has no finesse. It never has a chance to breathe. So that's when you get wines that are jammy or baked, or whatever kind of word you want to use to describe that.
Because that goes back to balance. You really want to have that acidity to make sure that the wine is just in check and that it's, drinkable, and it's not just this flat, flabby expression of basically jammy wine.
Yeah, people think Colorado's a cool grape growing region. We were shocked this year. So since we can't get all of our wine from Colorado this year, we're working with vineyards in California and Washington State and New York State. We're making a Chardonnay from one of the most single famous Chardonnay vineyards in the world, the Biennacido Vineyard. Top 10 Chardonnay vineyards in the world. We were reading a post where like 3 years ago, over the course of the entire grape growing season, it never got above 80 degrees in that vineyard all summer long. That's cool climate grape growing. That is not what we're doing here in Colorado. We have a hyper concentrated but hyper intense grape growing season here. So it's unique.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Mattie, you had a favorite wine, didn't you?
Well, my new favorite is the Dry Gewürztraminer.
Thank you.
I bought like 6 bottles this summer, in addition to my wine club thing. And I think that's such an example of when you talk about sort of like the diversity of the drink, that there's all these different things to discover. And as it warms up, and that's the thing with white wines and rosés, people drink it so cold.
Yeah.
But like when you go to a tasting room, that's where you really kind of sit around and you get to, it opens up and you see all the different notes and the different
subtleties.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. And so like I used to reject white wines and rosés. I was like only red. And now I'm like, oh my God, there's such interesting things going on.
There's power in that subtlety. And
Conversion.
Conversion, success. But yeah, it's fun in the tasting room. We like to pour heavier pours for our tastings because of that evolution. We pour it cold and, we do have an outdoor tasting room. And so the wine comes to a temperature and it's just incredible how the wine evolves just with a little bit of air and a little bit of temperature change.
Yeah, it's so good.
We'd been wanting to do a Gewürz. So when we first visited the North Fork Valley, the winery that kind of drew us there was one of our neighbors, Stone Cottage Cellars. Jayme spent some time, did some harvest with them. And their flagship wine is their Dry Gewürztraminer. It's without a doubt the single wine that drew us to the North Fork Valley. We had it on the list at Shanahan's. It was a pretty clear model of what it was we thought we kind of wanted to do, an all-sauce style model. And we wanted to do a take on Gewürztraminer ever since, and we knew we wanted to do it dry for sure. So this was our first take, was the 2020 Dry Gewürz, and we thought it was delicious.
It's so good. And I have a star that we don't forget by the end because we're getting closer to talk about holiday pairings. Since this is December, and that, of course, is an
and your question about expansion too. Yes, I remembered. I like categorized.
Let's talk about expansion. Well, yes, we don't forget.
Yeah. Well, in 2020, that was the year for us to expand. We were ready. We are beyond at over capacity right now in our small winery. And 2020, we were going to build on the southwest corner of the property a new actual winery. So right now, we're in a retrofitted machine shop. It's not insulated. We have to do a lot of song and dances, meaning a lot of like energy input to make sure it stays cool in the summer and warm in the winter. We have the space heater. We're constantly looking at temperatures. We have a glycol chiller / heater that keeps our wines at temperature that is conducive to proper aging, proper fermenting. And we have in that same small, basically garage, all of our inventory and all of our tanks. Right now we have 13 tanks in there. We're expecting 8 more totes this week of finished wine. And so we are, it's kind of been fun.
Bursting at the seams.
It's been fun because we both love games. We both love Tetris. But it's time for a new place. And so in 2020, we were going to do that. And of course, everyone was halted. We had, a loan ready for, to sign to have a construction site built or to have our winery site built. And that just fell through the cracks because of COVID. And so we adapted. We did an outdoor tasting room in 2020. 2021, we're doing it. 2022, knocking on the wood here, will be the last year that we're doing that. It's been great. We have the room, and it's a beautiful spot. It's a beautiful spot overlooking the West Elk Wilderness and Mount Lamborn and Land's End. But it's tight, and we want to do a sparkling project, which requires space. And so to answer your question about expansion, we are, tentatively breaking ground in 2022 to have a tasting room and a winery for 2023 season. We're thrilled. It's definitely going to be focused around a culinary connection with a commercial kitchen because that is something that we are just tied to. We both want to be in the kitchen. We both want to make the wine, both want to talk about it. And that's a point where we'll probably have to bring someone in or bring some guest chefs in because we can't do everything.
And you guys done those wine dinners outside a lot, right? Which I have not.
We've been doing them outside, which is hard because of the elements. We've been rain delayed, have to move venues, but to have a venue there ourselves on site is just a dream.
Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome.
Dreamy for us too.
Yeah.
Yes. Channel that excitement. We'll do it.
We'll take a field trip. Going back to the point about sort of California and the world and all that stuff, I'm interested to see what you guys think about ratings and competitions in terms. I know that coming from the beer industry, it's sort of that. Well, it gets your name out there. It makes it more accessible to people. But there's also the piece of like, someone's, this person.
There's a piece of
you gotta fight that battle.
Yeah, I mean, even right now, starting out, having a new winery, getting a good rating is important. Having those medals is important. It establishes credibility that you are a quality winemaker. It goes farther than the impact of, say, having great tasting room guests that leave good reviews. That's important. Crowdsourcing is important. But having, say, the San Francisco International Wine Competition, saying that your Rosé of St. Vincent is one of the top 3 rosés in the world, put that grape for us on our map. We made it. This is our 3rd year making it. And that's powerful. Credibility in an emerging wine region. But even back in our days when we were at Shanahan's curating a list, I don't know. I'd kind of scoff at ratings, and you get to know, say, a certain wine critic's palate, and you're just like, oh, of course, so-and-so makes this wine, puts it on the map, and then you're just like, well, I don't like his or her palate, and it's kind of a litmus test. It can be a great thing, but we kind of ebb and flow. We still are pro putting our wines in competitions right now.
Partly because we just want to know, too. You just want to put your wines against the wines of the world and see what shines. But, when you look at yourself as a business, do we spend $500 to enter 4 wines into a major competition, or do we spend $500 to put an ad in the local newspaper? What? It's
knowing your audience.
What is the marketing that's going to work for us? How do we make that work? It's still a work in progress as to figuring out.
Yep.
What's the right angle? But we've entered competitions pretty religiously. Every single wine that we've ever made has been entered into a major competition. Mm-hmm. Every single one.
It's great feedback, regardless of how you use that press.
Right. And it shows your pride in what you're doing. You believe in your product,
yes,
as you should.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a good segue, not really, but into...
I'm lying.
I'm lying. It's completely not at all. But the holiday pairings about... talking about the wines that you guys offer and some of the classic holiday meals that people are going to be making and your suggestions for our lovely audience.
Yeah, I think white wine and rosés, Steve and I talk about how our wines are just made for holiday cooking. You've got that classic roasted turkey, ham. What did you say?
While you're cooking and
exactly. Pairing wines, it's so much fun. You have all these richer cuisines, and a lot of people think, oh, big bold reds. Yes. Really, that higher acid profile and that finesse is just so complementary with richer dishes. And, for example, the Gewürztraminer that you love, that is like a classic turkey pairing. Rosé is often overlooked. And the rosé spectrum is, to just say, I love rosé. Great. What kind of rosé do you like? It's a big spectrum, just like red wine, just like white wine, like orange wine. And so rosé is definitely a versatile option. You've got the notes of a red wine made in a white wine style. Chillable, refreshing. You've got that good acid too. That
a lot of people think of rosé as a summer wine.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be.
No, probably crack one tonight.
Drink it all day.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's about what do you like to drink while you're eating and what do you like to just drink. Mm-hmm. And those are not the same thing. People are like, I hate big buttery oaky Chardonnay. I'm like, I love it.
Yeah, it's
I don't like it with dinner,
no.
But I love to just sit around and sit on it. It's rich, it's cozy. I love big bold reds, but we almost never, unless you're like having a steak or a pot roast or something, we tend to sip on those wines after dinner if if I'm having wine with dinner, I tend to have something lighter in body, sharper in acid, less oak, less body, less extraction. All those things overwhelm dinner to me.
Yeah, to borrow a word that's used in beer world, it's sessionable. It's something that you can have another sip of, have another glass of, and it beckons you to enjoy another bite. It doesn't just stop you in your tracks and you're just kind of overwhelmed with this heavy red.
Yeah, and I love that you said about the Chardonnay, because it's like, I mean, in anything, whether it's food, beer, wine, the arts, it's like people have these popular opinions, like oaky Chardonnays are the worst,
right.
Or whatever. No. I will not drink Merlot, whatever the line is. From
never say never.
But it's like, no, like just if you get a good one,
exactly.
explore it. Like, yeah, I mean, there's bad versions and there's good versions. And
and there's a time for all of them. Do you want oysters and Cabernet together? People think, oh, I love oysters. Oh, I love Cabernet. Both of those things are delicious, right?
And that was actually like a classic pairing that we'd see at a steakhouse. And you don't want to judge someone. They're just, if that's what it depends upon what you're going into a dinner, what your vision is. I want to have the fanciest wine available. I want to have the fanciest food available. And so you get this really fancy cab, really fancy oysters. And you have to think like, okay, how can I show this person that there's this magic sip and bite pairing in a nice way? Just like, try this. So you'd bring out a taste and it's so much fun. But you're right. It's just like, you don't want to judge someone because they like this big, bold red. There's a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. People say, what do you like to drink? Or what should I drink? And I'm like, well, whatever
you like.
Whatever the cheapest wine is that tastes delicious to you, go for that for sure.
Stock yourself with that and then get the specials. Yeah.
So nice to go to tasting and a wine pairing. I mean, it's really a huge education.
Absolutely. There are those magical pairings.
It's weird in the United States that, we talk in the world of wine. We talk old world and new world, whereas old world being Europe and new world being everything else. And it's such a weird new world mentality that wine is supposed to take the place of a cocktail. And you're just supposed to open this bottle and it's just supposed to be delicious right out of the gate. Just drink it and go. But that's never the way it's meant in Europe. It's like, what food is this going to go with? How is this going to complement my meal? It's different.
Right. Well, and where my biggest pet peeve is like where your palate is coming into the drinking experience. Like people so often are like, I just, had gum and now I'm drinking this Chardonnay and it tastes like crap. It's like, well, yeah.
It did. And I'll tell you, I had some espresso before we got here and not the best flavor combination with the Chardonnay. So yeah, you're right. Or wearing perfume in a tasting room. The whole pairing experience and tasting experience can be so dramatically different depending upon what you bring to it. Attitudes.
Should have an outdoor shower, like
oh my gosh,
for people to just rinse off before.
Like a clean room, right?
Yes, decontamination room. That's really brilliant. For real.
Jayme did a post this last week where she was talking about what if we do our tastings where we don't tell the guests what it is and we do it all in black glasses this next year. Like, what if we offer our normal tastings, but what if we offer a true option for a sensory experience where you can't see it and you don't know what's in the glass and you're really put to the test of trying to figure out what's here? Do I actually like it? As opposed to, oh, this Riesling is too sweet.
I hate Riesling.
That's our dry Riesling, I don't like Chardonnay. There's no oak on this Chardonnay. Or they say, this Riesling's too sweet. It's crazy, the preconceptions that people bring to a tasting room with them.
I think it's a great idea.
Great, yeah.
I'll be there, of course.
Awesome. We'll get those black glasses lined up then.
Well, as we wrap up, can you tell our listeners and our viewers about your schedule for 2022. When can they come visit you? When do you hope to open? And when will you have wines and tastings? And what's going on in 2022?
Well, we'll start with what's available right now. Tasting rooms in our area, are a little bit different hours than those in Palisade, Grand Junction. So we're technically closed for the season, but we do keep our wines preserved in an argon system. So we put this inert gas on it that we allow, if we see one guest, and we see a guest maybe like in a week, the wines are like preserved and fresh to go. So anyone who'd like to make an appointment can definitely stop by anytime, between now and the end of May. For the 2022 season, we are tentatively scheduled to be open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from noon until 7 p.m. And we're definitely excited to do some more, culinary wine pairings at our tasting room, offering some more food options for our guests.
Fantastic.
But certainly have an amazing website. Wine's available right now. We just today released our Christmas holiday Colorado culinary pack that's got some of our wines, some favorite culinary treats from some local Colorado purveyors. That just went live on our website today, and we'll be promoting it on social for the next week. We'll be selling those for the next week and getting them off in time for Christmas for sure.
And your website is?
stormcellarwine.com. And Storm Cellar Wine is our handle on all of our social media accounts too. Make it easy.
Great.
Do you do most of the photography?
We do. Yes. Yeah.
It's really good.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
I love your label too. I mean, it's wonderful.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. It is intentionally meant to like mimic our style of wine as just crisp and clean. So yeah, thank you. Mission accomplished.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a real pleasure. And I know Mattie agrees. We're just thrilled to have you on the western slope of Colorado. And we can't wait to come visit you. I think we're going to have to take a team trip. Don't you think so,
Team
Mattie?
trip.
Let us know. We'll be ready for you.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I don't know if you are truly ready for us.
Please block off the whole place for us. You don't want any other guests there
Private
at that
party.
time.
Outdoor shower needed.
Before and after. Yeah.
Okay. Jayme and Steve from Storm Cellar Winery in Hotchkiss, Colorado. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next time on the Full Circle podcast.
Thanks, Christi.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for listening. This is Christi Reece signing out from the Full Circle podcast.